Our life would vanish, but not our guilt. I am you, yet you are not me. It's the sin that makes you linger in this realm. Memories like mirrors reflecting the true likeness of your soul. In a world full of pain and suffering, Fang Rei Shin, what do you fear the most? Losing myself. Choosing any other option will result in the bad ending. Believe that we are born free, eager to walk on your own path, and afraid of losing yourself. You are me. And welcome to the finale of Detention. As I said during that, the choice you make during the final act of the game, there's 3 or 4 pieces. We'll find out as we go. I have a little walkthrough next to me just to make sure I click the right thing. But if you click the wrong thing at any point through it, you will get yourself the bad ending. I will highlight the bad ending in an extra video at some point. But for now, I'm going to show you how to get the real ending, how to get the true ending, because you don't want the bad ending, trust me. This is a very linear part of the game, but all you're trying to do is move your shadow side from different locations. You'll be swapping between your faded self and your shadow self between this. Like currently we are the shadowed self, but when we enter through here, we can come back to the faded self. The way forward is the path to your past. However, the road ahead has crumbled. Lead me anywhere and I will follow you like a shadow. What it means is that if you just run across, it won't actually follow us. But if we go back through the door, then walk through, it will. So what you need to do is walk all the way through it. This door unfortunately is locked. Here's a remnant of our past. We were here before with a sliding door wrapped in barbed wire. We can't quite enter this door. You have to go around so you can then get access to your shadow on the other side. I believe this door's locked as well. Yeah. And yes, we are back in the main school building where we started the game in again. But this time we get to jump between forms and see different versions of it. When we're the shadow form, the way the scenery is, we've actually seen before. You might remember very, very briefly at the end of the prologue, when Rei was left alone, we saw it fade to that kind of colour before it went to black and it went to Rei waking up in the chair. Who is it calling at a time like this? That was when we heard the phone call that got our first jump scare back in part 2. Well, it was right at the end of part 1, it was in act 1. But now we're on the other side. If we traverse through, the shadow will still be on the other side so it can finish and go through the door. Remember when you enrolled, so full of passion, participating in every school activity, showing off your academic abilities, grabbing the attention of your peers and teachers. Then things took a turn for the worst at home. All the attention quickly turned into unwanted scrutiny. So you chose to escape. The world is immeasurably vast. There is always a place to hide. You are me. Once again, if you chose either of the other 2 options, you would guarantee yourself the bad ending. Thankfully, there is a chapter select in this game, so if you fuck any of this up and get the bad ending, it's not over. This place is completely lifeless, even ideas are buried here. Remember to thoroughly destroy each book and add the spirit money to throw them off. There can't be any intact book pages, or else this would be for naught. Hey, Wei. You're closer with Miss Yin. I heard that she had to flee the country overnight. Is that true? I'm not sure. She never said anything about leaving. Unlike Miss Yin, we don't have the connections to guide us to safety. Aren't you afraid? Well, actually, what bothers me the most is, do you know how the reading list got leaked out? I wonder if it was Rei. Stop asking questions. I am as clueless as you. Let's just hurry and finish this. We don't want to get caught. I wonder if it was Ray, and that's what it's showing there. The shadow form is witnessing the parts of what happened afterwards. A written verdict from court. Ooh. Torn piece of the verdict. Chang Ming-hu, district level educator, is found guilty with students Wei and others in collusion with communist forces. Chang will be put to death after the court ruling, and he pleaded guilty with affiliation with communist forces. So yeah, that was part of what the book club was giving. It was information banned by martial law that was communist propaganda, or at least things that was called communist propaganda. Whether it is or not, I'm not entirely sure yet. But let's move on and follow the footsteps of the gentleman that was there. The bonfire of hope is almost depleted, diminishing in the wind. And here's the book club in question that we've heard so much about. Some of the book contents might conflict with your everyday thoughts, but this material will help you engage in reflective and independent thinking. Well, let's call it a day. I do want to remind you all again to never mention the book club to anyone else, for that might put yourself and others in great danger. And Wei, I'd like to ask you a favour. Yes, Miss Yin, is it about the new books? I've already given the list to Mr. Chang. He said the shipping company won't help us anymore, but he'll figure us something out. The government is enforcing restrictions on all imports. Soon, the book club might come to an end. Miss Yin, why are things like this? I'm sorry, Wei. There's nothing I can do either. Oh, just one more thing before you go. Mr. Chang never brought us any of these books in the first place, right? Ha! I knew I could always count on you. And then we got to see the book club when it was probably in its glory days. Probably neighbouring the end. Half a century in exile, blacklisted to return home for burial. During a period of martial law, Miss Yin was a wanted political fugitive. She was lucky to evade arrest and left the country only to be blacklisted. She travelled the world fighting for human rights and freedom of expression, but ultimately died of lung cancer aged 50. Her last wish was to return to our hometown. Now that wish can only be achieved with the lifting of martial law. Yeah, it's getting serious now. We're finally getting a bit of a whisper of what the martial law really was about. The thing that's, you know, part of the whole plot and whole circle and commentary of what they're doing, but only dive into in the closing act of the game. Which, fair enough, interesting choice, but whatever. But I say that this is a very short game, so they probably had to try and find a way to balance out the number of plot threads they wanted to do. Whether it was Ray selling out the book club, whether it was the abusive home life, or her relationship with Mr. Chang. It was all because Mr. Chang is the counsellor that I was mentioning last part. It's all connected, and so they had to highlight and show what it all was, so then they could explain how it's connected and how it all worked. And this game's only about 2 to 3 hours long. Probably like you'd barely make 4 hours on your first run when you don't know where you're going. And that's it. Also, we're getting called a snitcher again to help highlight what we were talking about back in Act 2 or Part 3. It was Ray who sold out the book club. And shit gets more distorted because closing chapter in a horror tend to do that. And now we're going to find why the piano was part of the puzzle, because it was what the young boy we keep seeing played. He'd regularly come to the piano room and play it and enjoy it. There he is. And now how decrepit and destroyed it is now. Because that typhoon they mentioned right at the start, did come in, I think. I don't think this is just a distorted nightmare. I do think the entire building was wrecked by it. That time, in fear, forcing herself to breed hatred, who knew that she would take the leap and leave this world behind? This note is directly referencing Ray. Ray took her own life at the end. She jumped off the roof of the building because it all became too much. And I believe this is Mr. Chang who wrote this note, riddled with guilt, I believe, of what had taken place. That I might be wrong of though, but it's just how I took it. That's one of the ones I'm least confident in, so I could easily be very wrong, but that's just how I took it. When you return back through the room, the scenery will change again. But when we advance back through this door, we'll be met with a save point, I believe. Yes. This is your very last save in the game. Keep that in mind. Beyond this, there are no more save points. But because there's no need to be. The last enemy we encountered was in Act 2, for goodness sake. We didn't encounter a single enemy in Act 3, and we don't encounter a single enemy here. There's a note on the cart. Right. I need to mention that. When I couldn't find a way to deal with the enemies in Act 2, there was a note on the cart I walked straight past and didn't click on. And that's what it's referencing. This puzzle here, your shadow will not walk through the light, so you can reach her in this sense. So you need to turn off one light, turn it off on the other side, so you can control the movement of the shadow to get her to travel across the room while still having your ability to change to her. So go back over here, turn the light off and move across, and to where we'll get the third and I believe final choice of options you have to make. I might be wrong, I can't remember. Acting immediately on one's determination, this is the philosophy he believed in, that someone should take fate into their own hands. With you following him, what ideals do you hold? To take hold of your destiny, the other two will get the bad ending. That is a charming thought. So life has gained a goal. Next to him, you found yourself. You are me. And through the closing paths and final doors, we progress onwards still. Oh right, I went the wrong way, okay. Neat. Are we supposed to exit out the front? Yeah, we are, okay. No matter how many times this replays, nothing can be unwound. You can never redeem yourself. And now we're going to highlight what I mean of when Ray sold out the book club, because she went to the officer buy. Instructor buy even. This is the book list I mentioned before. I found it on our teacher's desk. Miss Fang, your country appreciates your assistance. But she was directly invited into the book club, so that's bullshit. She didn't go, oh, I didn't know it. It was how it was. And this is our fourth and actual final choice. Did you think finding something to rely on would starve off your fear? One day, however, he was gone, just like that. You've lost everything you can depend on. What choice will you make now? Try to take them back. The instructor's sharp gaze was stifling. You steeled yourself and performed without hesitation. In that one moment, transforming into a pitiless patriot. Easier than you think, right? You are me. So I was right when I first suspected it was 4, then doubted myself and said there's only 3 times to make the choice, but no, it was 4 choices. But when you've made your 4th one, you've done. You don't have to worry about it. The only other thing you need to get to make sure you get the good ending will be on our path, because there's an item that spawns in when you make the right choices that you need to pick up to give you the rest. If you don't do the right choices or just don't pick it up, you will get the alternate ending. As we advance our way up. to see what really happened on the roof. Deep down, the boy probably knew this was coming to an end, and so had one last smoke and left it to it. Yeah, this game gets really out there near the end, but it is what it is. This item here, in the middle here, this is what you need to get. The yellowed paper plane. Oh, wrong button again. From the white deer to my white daffodil, fate holds us apart, so let us meet again in another life to our freedom. And now when you advance, when you go through this door, you will get your ending depending on the choices you made. Open the door. Chang Ming Hu, you are suspected of spreading anti-government propaganda, smuggling banned books and organising illegal gatherings. The court has already obtained the necessary evidence. We now arrest you on the grounds of rebellious activities. Do not resist on pain of death. Looks like it'll be difficult to escape this time. Fine. Take my head so that I may join my brothers and sisters in death. Why? Aren't people born to live freely? To think openly, to spread their minds without restriction or fear. Freedom of belief, love, and self-realization. Being with you was a happiness of the simplest and purest kind. I couldn't help but think. When we could be hand in hand, living an untroubled life. But in the end, it is only a fool's dream. I too am vain like the daffodils, fixated on my grandiosity. The world is not ready for the likes of us.
白水先染上一河鲜血，只能如铁锈般凋零。
And now, as the sole survivor of this circumstance, if we get to travel back to the school one last time, now in the dawn of a new day, to witness the outcome of everything that took place, the destruction, both physically and philosophically, that took place throughout this story. I'll save my final thoughts for a few more minutes yet, but damn, I found this so intriguing when I was going through it. We are in the closing act. We've got a bit more story to go yet, but in terms of what's going on, it's going to be a much slower at this point now. But just damn, barrened from the heavens and hampered from the underworld. Alone and wandering forever she goes. Pitiful. That old lady, if you died at any point during the adventure, you would witness that old lady and she would talk to you briefly. But when you go to walk on, it will highlight the book to you. And the reason why is because it will now have an advancement on everything on the notes you've got from the past, so you can see more of the story of what you've already got. So take that as an opportunity if you're watching along to pause it, because there's a lot of information here, so I'm not going to be reading it all. But if you got the chance and you want to get the extra context, the extra pieces of what it is, here it is. There's a lot here for you to read. Right, here's the torn piece of the verdict. 15 years of my life were taken away by a piece of paper. I can still clearly remember when the military police came knocking and carried me off in front of my mother. Little did I know that that was the last time I'd see her face. This is about the burial, and then the extra about after being released from jail, I haven't had any contact with Miss Yin. I couldn't believe it at first, but she had passed away due to lung cancer. Like with my mother, only after seeing her ashes with my own eyes was I able to realise how things had become. It doesn't matter what I was feeling back then. Only pain and sadness remain. A large banyan tree has been cut down. It weathered the storm for generations, yet it fell under the sharp hedge of human desire. But pretty much that was Detention. As it's a very short, very niche sort of game, but I wanted to highlight it and show it off because I was very impressed by it. I want to see more of what they do later on. I want to see what the studio do now after this. I want to see what this very small team who just had a passion do. There's the development team that I have my eyes on now. Because this game just captured me, it just caught my attention and pulled me in, whilst telling a story that was probably a very real thing at the time. There probably were people who were stuck between doing what was governmentally the right thing and doing what they felt was the right thing. There definitely are people who had very strained relationships with their parents, or had parents who were abusive, struggled with their day-to-day life because of everything that had happened. There were relationships between students and teachers, there still are. It's a very decrepit but real world, and I felt that this did a good job at highlighting just how bad it would have been in Taiwan at the time. Just how almost desperate it was at the time. And I'm glad I got to share that all with you. As I say that, I talk about how depressing it is and go, yeah, but I'm glad I showed you. Because I feel like this game does deserve a bit more attention than it has right now. Yeah, it's a bit basic, and yeah, it's very short, but there is a lot more here than what you may first think. It's not a generic cheesy horror, it's something that wants to sell a message, and does so. And I feel like it does its job very well in capturing that. But this building has really been torn to shreds, as you can tell. Whether it was due to the typhoon or just the weather of time, it is a very busted, abandoned place now. If we return to the desk where our fateful two first spoke, we get this little peaceful scene. And we get to see Ray one last time. Because Ray did die. She took her own life as she jumped off the top of the school building. And that's Detention, through and through. I've already said my piece, so I won't make this long, but if you haven't tried this game and it's very cheap, I got it for like £6, and you have some pounds spare and you just want to try something different, something that's a bit more compelling, and something that just catches your attention, give this game a go, because you won't be disappointed, I'm telling you now. Yeah, it has its horror moments, but I don't think that takes away anything from what it is. The only criticism I could ever dare to give it is its length. It is a very short game, but I can understand that this was a very short, probably strict on budget project, as the credit screen here, as you'll notice, isn't that long, and so it's probably just how it is. But that being said, I'm glad I showed this. But the next game I'll be let's playing is another shorter title that I think will be a bit longer than this, but still very short, that also covers darker elements through it, but in a different way than how this handles it. And so I wanted to do them almost in tandem. I wanted to do both back to back to show different ways of portraying this ambient, more personal design of storytelling. But I've said enough. If you've watched this all the way through, thank you so much again for watching. God bless, and you guys take care now.